Well, another very warm welcome back, all my vintage dirt bike loving YouTubers, and thanks to you all once more for retuning to Classic Dirt Bike TV. Now, apparently there's some good news to announce that by April the 26th, the Scottish Government, and including, of course, the whole of the UK Government, are now allowing us to go further afield, so we will be able to cross Scottish and English borders. So it looks like I'll be free to roam about the UK and try and bring you some brand new bikes for my YouTube channel. So I'm looking forward to doing that in the next few months. So please continue to subscribe to my channel, because we have some fantastic new projects lined up for you in 2021. Okay, until then, we're going to continue and we're going to take a look at Robert Kennedy's 1965 Cottton Starmaker 250, an old British classic. So without any further ado, let's just jump straight into the video. Okay, now this quite nice old classic was the late Robert Kennedy's 1965 Cottton 250 Starmaker Scrambler. Now, Robert's bike is not a fully original machine from that period, although it's still a very nice example when you consider that it's now clocking on for about 56 years old, and it's certainly not every day that you see a 1960s Cottton Starmaker turning up to race at classic dirt bike events. Now, the bike mainly consists of a steel tubular Cottton frame and using, of course, the Villiers two-stroke 250 engine as its power plant. And back in the 1960s, these Starmakers, or even the HIS Stormers for that matter, which of course were very similar to these bikes, were the staple diet of many motocross racers from that period. And if you weren't riding a big British four-stroke at that time, then these Starmaker bikes were certainly a good alternative if you were a two-stroke fanatic. But in their day, these Starmaker machines were quite light and very flickable, and they maybe never enjoyed the luxury of our kind of modern day suspension systems, but this was the technology of the time, and some riders made very good use of what they had at that time, and they achieved some good results on these British made machines. Now, this alloy tank on Robert's bike is the original 1965 item, complete with its 1965 factory fresh paint job. But many owners of these Starmakers these days tend to keep them undercover, as they're now becoming quite rare. But this particular bike is still used daily by Robert's son, who switches between his CCM and this Starmaker. Now, correct me here if I'm wrong, but as I remember, these front forks on these Starmakers were called metal profile units, which I think were designed by DMW, although they do look very similar to the Italian-made Seriani front forks. Although, mind you, it's still good to see an old timer like this that's still got its original patina from its time on the racetrack, and I suppose it would be quite an easy project to do a full restoration on this bike, but of course that would then take away all of its history and originality in the process. But as I said, she's not a fully authentic example, which you have to expect considering its age, and it's only natural that some of the factory fitted parts have since been replaced. But nevertheless, it's a really nice example of one of these old British Starmakers. Now, the bike, as well, you know, is powered by this Villiers two-stroke Starmaker motor, and if you're thinking that it looks almost identical to an HIS Stormer engine, then you'd be right in that assumption, because from the outside, both the Starmaker and the Stormer engines look almost identical, although there are a multitude of differences between the Starmaker and the Stormer engines, and almost all of these differences take place inside the engine casings. If my memory serves me correctly, the Stormer engine numbers all began with A250, and these Starmaker motors were designated 225H. And as I recall, there were more than 10 variants of this Starmaker engine, which had all manner of different engine specifications because they were used on a multitude of different kinds of motorcycles. For example, the Stormer motor had a removable piston liner, whereas the Starmaker engine has a cast cylinder liner. But other things like the Stormer motor, which had a close ratio gearbox for motocross, whereas a Starmaker motor may have had wide ratio gears for trials or road racing. So you can get an idea of just how different both these motors were, like internally, although they looked very similar from the outside. And these were widely used in scrambles, trials and road racing, and at one time they were a very popular choice also for kart racers. Now, the road racing version of this Starmaker motor had a 6-speed gearbox, and also had a tachometer drive fitted so that you could keep your beady eye on those high revolutions. But apart from one or two replacement parts, this particular example of Robert's is still a quite nice original looking machine, and as you can see, it's certainly no show bike, because this is a well used old classic, as Robert, as I said, switches between this little Starmaker and his bigger 560 CCM when he's racing it at a classic dirt bike event. But this exhaust tailpipe is another one of the non-original parts on this bike, which is not surprising considering the bike's age, and I'm actually surprised that not more of this bike's parts have been changed through its lifetime. But it certainly speaks volumes about the Starmaker motors designer's Bernard Hooper, who was a two-stroke engine specialist, and of course John Favell, who was the specialist in gears and gearboxes, who combined both their talents to produce such a good little motor, and the many successes, of course, that riders have enjoyed while racing these Starmaker bikes on or off-road. But of course, one of the biggest successes for the Villiers Starmaker motor was in 1966, when Peter Inchley rode a road racing version of the Starmaker engine at the Isle of Man TT race, and he finished third in the 250 class, clocking an average speed of 90 miles per hour. And the other surprising thing was that the only machines to finish ahead of him in that race were the multi-cylinder race bikes of Honda. Although these Starmakers were certainly a bike with a lot of racing history and success in their own individual racing categories, and this particular featured bike of Robert's, you have to say, is a very nice example of a 1965 Cottton Starmaker Scrambler. That very brief look around Robert Kennedy's 1965 Cottton 250 Starmaker. Quite a rare old British classic, but nevertheless certainly worth another look here on my video channel. Okay, until we can get some brand new material for you, we're going to take another look at Cecil Pearson's lovely Jap Scrambler. Now, this is one of my favourite bikes from back in 2019, and certainly as classic dirt bikes go, this is one of the best, this lovely bike from Cecil Pearson. So we're going to take another look at Cecil's machine in my next video posting. But look out for some brand new material coming very soon to my classic dirt bike TV channel. So do hope you subscribe and continue to comment on my videos up until then. So until the next time, everybody be safe and well, and we'll certainly speak again when we all return to Classic Dirt Bike TV.